It will happen after this series. We'll be having a developer come up here to talk about the content reveal. It'd be great. Hashtag HGC is where all the action will be. We'll share your tweets live as we keep popping out and getting all the information coming in. So get excited for that. It's going to be great. Let's go ahead and start today's Best of 5 series so we can get closer to that content reveal. Game number 1, Tricked Esports, playing on Infernal Shrines. That does mean Team Expert will get the first pick.
Wouldn't it be cool if we have a content veiling at some point? I have my personal theory that I think they just delete Genji from the game and all the backliners are going to be super happy.
You do not like Genji, man. You do not.
No, I don't. That's also because I mostly play squishies, so of course I hate him.
This guy needs to learn how to play less squishies, more Arthas. That way you can shut him down here. So first pick will be going over to Team Expert, Infernal Shrines. A little bit more of a battleground, I would say, favored towards Tricked Esport, but Team Expert, no one to laugh at when it comes to this battleground.
Yeah, and this is definitely one of the maps where we could see Leoric now coming into play. So again, we will see some matches probably where Leoric isn't even picked, others where it's going to be highly prioritized. But overall, we have more heroes, of course, that have seen changes. Chromie, super interesting right now, and you can gain a lot of damage potential with her and the new build, of course, as well. With Jaina, it's actually quite interesting that Jaina, in the games where I have seen her, where players or teams decided, okay, let's give her a bit of a shot, the build was pretty much the same build as before. It's a very similar style, yes. There are slight adjustments later on, but most of the time it was very reminiscent of old, and most of the changes just simply ignored for that part.
For me personally, the new Jaina, I love the level 7 talent, Ice Wand of Fury, if I remember correctly. When you apply auto attacks after chilling a target, your Blizzard cooldown reduction goes down. So it's wonderful with Water Elemental, because the Water Elemental got buffed too. I love that new build, but we'll see if we get that as we now are moving into the draft. Team Expert, they love to ban Tassadar. We'll see if that changes as we head into the match.
It's definitely one of the best things when you have a new patch coming out where there are not only reworks, but also a couple of smaller talent changes.
New toys.
Exactly. You see how all of the teams are starting to adapt to the situation, and also how they are trying to newly prioritize their compositions. And even a hero that didn't get changed might have a big resurgence just because the hero that countered it was weakened or just the playstyle adjusted.
Well, speaking of a different ban here, Team Expert comes out and they ban Gul'dan. Tricked Esports is known for running Gul'dan. Crosby really loves to land those Horrifies and be quite the nuisance, and he's great on Infernal Shrine, so Team Expert thinking he's good enough here against Tricked Esports to bring out a ban, which is very different. Normally we don't see this.
Especially in the #1 position, having a ban this early.
And on game 1.
Yeah, it's something that we don't see too often, but as you pointed out, Crosby loves Gul'dan. They love to play him on this particular map. And it's interesting that they now more or less target Crosby with this ban, whereas before you could see more of a focus on Alex, since a lot of teams agree if Alex is having a good game, the team has a good game. He is the soul of the team for a lot of people, and they just say if we can somehow put him into a bit of a bad spot, then they are going to have a much harder match.
Team Expert going with a traditional ETC pickup. Tricked Esports answered back with Uther and Greymane. Typically they would go into Uther and Genji, but they've been playing Greymane a little bit as of late with Make showing off the hero, and they think that he's good enough here. There are, of course, the standard pickups of why he's great on this battleground with the cocktail build and such, but Tricked Esports dodging out on the Dahaka and, of course, Genji.
Yeah, Greymane's flexibility is definitely something that you need to always be careful about, and since they have Uther, Genji is mostly strong when you have the Divine Shield for Genji when he starts to use his Dragon Blade. So with them picking Uther, they already make sure that Genji, if he's picked by Team Expert, is going to lose some of his threat level. And at the same time, Expert, they have already ETC in their own lineup, so that's a fantastic pick for the reasons we mentioned in the past few weeks. He's very flexible in the way he can be played. And now we are seeing Leoric, as pointed out before, so we are very likely to see those talents on level 13 and 16, just trying to make sure that you get that Wraith Walk. And the damage reduction is on 13 is absolutely insane.
I'm excited to get into the match where you look at the build, because if there's one hero that I would say you were a little bit biased towards, if there was ever one in casting, probably the Leoric. So we'll definitely have to keep an eye on his build.
Leo is pretty fun. Like, Leo and Vala are probably two of the heroes that I play by far the most. But yeah, with Leoric, it seems that right now everybody that plays him tries to go for the damage reduction on level 13 in Wraith Walk form. And then on 16 you go for Royal Focus, which also gives you cooldown reduction. So you can just like basically ghost around the entire time. Whereas the first two talents are mostly going into the Skeleton Swing. And then on level 7, I've seen some adjustment, but oftentimes it's in trying with the Drain Hope to increase your movement speed.
I am curious to see if Team Expert is going to ban out Rhaegar. I know we have an Uther already for Tricked Esport, but they usually do move to the Rhaegar for a double support run if they want to, usually a lot of the time. But there is always a threat of Genji still being picked up, even though they have a gray main. I am a little bit worried about who would play it, but Team Expert needs to decide what they want to get rid of here to keep away from their opponents.
Yeah, they can of course target the front line again. Arthas is a hero that is oftentimes banned against Strict because they know that Alex loves to play the hero.
Yeah.
And in this setup now in Infernal Shrines, Arthas can of course always cause that big presence on the shrine in fights. So that's one hero that they could think about, probably are thinking about at this point. But as you said, there's a lot of other choices as well that they could now consider. And another one would of course be another frontliner. We are still talking about Johanna, and I mean, with Alex, you always have to think about Diva, Zul even. They played these heroes on this map a lot.
And they ban out the Zul, so Arthas will be up and available. Great on this battleground, especially when you mix it with a top laner like Sonya, which could do pretty decently against Leoric. Actually, I've laned against Leoric with multiple heroes, mostly Ragnaros, because I'm spamming that guy like crazy in lane. But Leo seems like he wins a lot of lanes now, especially when he hits that level 4. So I am kind of curious to see what Trick Esports is going to pick there to match his power. There's still Dahaka floating around, still certainly one that we could pick up.
Yeah, his auto attacks right now is it's very, very different, and not everybody really likes it. You have AoE damage with the first two, and then once you have the overhead animation, then you do more damage to a single target. So you can play around that. A lot of people are not really too comfortable with that change that has been done there. But yeah, he definitely feels very different from before.
So you're trying to find a way to duck in and out of that third auto attack and make sure you reduce that damage coming in. Okay, we'll have to see what will get picked up here. In 10 seconds, we will find out.
I mean, with Zul already banned, we're talking, of course, again about Alex, and there's Arthas, as mentioned. That was definitely a concern for Expert. They were thinking about banning Arthas out. They just opted in favor of Zul instead, since Alex and Trick have been showing this quite a lot more just recently, trying to get the value. Not only with the wave clear, but the way that Alex plays it is more targeted to killing heroes on lane. So he roams a lot, hence the meme roaming Zul, because he's trying to set up kills for his allies.
Yep, drop to the bone prison, decide if you want to go for the engage. You have 2 seconds before it pops in, and then you decide on the team if you want to move in. If you have opponents coming in to defend that, you can just walk away. It's pretty devastating, actually, if you are coordinated enough. If you're playing in Team League, try roaming Zul. It's actually pretty darn scary. Team Expert here on their 4th and 5th will need a support pickup. Rhaegar seems to be the go-to. Great with double warrior. Lucio could work, but you also want to make sure you have a hero that can keep an eye on Vala, and Rhaegar works in that slot.
It would have shocked me to not see Rhaegar here. You have the Lightning Bond shield for the Shrine Control, for as much damage against the minions as you can possibly get, and then with your front line, also the Ancestral being available. Rhaegar just makes sense. We could still see a Medivh here. Abathur instead, okay. Abathur taken, so we have the copy for Vala and we have a copy on Rhaegar. Both are fantastic. So a bit of Abathur play.
I actually like that because Trick could also run Abathur on their side, and they have 2 hot targets that would be great, and ultimate evolution targets, Greymane and Arthas. So this one sets up Team Expert pretty well for their team, and also keeps it away from Trick Esport, who has ran it in the past.
It's definitely true. They could have run Abathur here. Then again, Abathur is not as common anymore on Infernal Shrines as he was in the past. Lately, some teams have started to pick him up a bit more on this map, but overall, he has an insane priority on Europe right now. We see him banned quite a lot, especially on battlegrounds as, for example, Cursed Hollow.
He's that hero that sometimes you don't think about in draft, and the moment he comes in, you're like, oh no, that's going to hurt.
Yeah, he can be a huge game changer for sure, especially if you have a very experienced team with him that knows how to use the soak. And here's Genji, late to the party, but we have him picked. So next to Greymane, they now have also Genji with Uther, so the Divine Shield and Dragon Blade combo is at it again.
I like it. There isn't very insane control on the opposing side to control him. You have ETC, of course, with Power Slide and Knockback, but Maki can play around that. Rain of Vengeance can get picked up, but you can dodge on that too with your high mobility, and you have the Uther with the Divine Shield. Comp looks really good for Trick Esport.
Yep, they have a pretty good composition there. But again, Leoric can be a massive game changer with a damage reduction after 13. And that power spike, that's definitely something that we have to watch out for during the game. What happens once that Leoric gains that level, and once it's even emphasized with the level 16 cooldown reduction that he's most likely going to take here. But then again, we might see a completely different build, but that has so far been the standard.
Yeah, so looking at dress right away in terms of macro play, Trick Esports looks great for Shrine Control, actually very great for Shrine Control between the Arthas and the Grey Main. You can be able to poke on the side and Nurak can control those chokes pretty well, but in terms of overall macro and controlling the battleground, I can see Leoric being a nuisance with Abathur constantly dropping in the hats, soaking experience, getting to level 10, and them doing pretty well when it comes to actual fights away from the Shrine. So this is going to be a fun matchup to see if Team Expert can catch Trick Esport off guard.
There's, of course, a bit of early game problems for Team Expert with the Abathur composition where they need to be careful. So it's likely that they're going to give up the first few shrines just to soak experience on the other side of the map. And Tricked is going to react to this because it's probably what they themselves are now expecting Expert to do. So the early game and the potential for Snowball is something to watch out for.
Let's go ahead. Moving to game number 1 here. Trick Esport taking on Team Expert. It's going to be a good one. Best of 5 series, and we're starting on Infernal Shrines.
Game number 1, ladies and gentlemen. Tricked Esports versus Expert, and to the left, Gnappe on Uther, Ramaballer on Anuburak. And for the red team, Crosby, this time on a Grey Main, as Alex the Pro G runs Arthas, and last but not least, Genji is played by Make.
Gonna watch out for that Genji. Make always puts on a show. On the right side in the red, Team Expert, Bad Benny playing ETC. A Thorough on Leoric, Kirsten playing Rhaegar, Nick will be our Vala player, and ADRD playing Abathur.
With the Abathur composition chosen on the side of Team Expert, Tricked is going to try and dominate the early shrines. They know that Expert has to be careful about approaching the team fights since they don't have the level 10 clone for Abathur available. So that is probably going to result in Team Expert attempting to go for the off lanes and trying to find experience there, giving up the shrines therefore, but trying to achieve an experience lead through simply taking down a few structures. And this is exactly what Trick is expecting for them, so we are going to see how they will adjust to that situation.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what's going to happen with the ETC. Right now, he's in the formation to be the main tank here, getting Prog Rock, working on regen globes, but at 7, he can help that split push goal of getting towards level 10 with the Echo Pedal. And his team is pretty safe. If Vala and Rhaegar stay near each other and stay in one lane, they should be just fine. Trick already starting pressure here on the bottom side, putting 3 on the bottom, and going to do their best to do a little bit of pushing, but with ETC moving his way on in, they play safe.
So at this point, we have Leoric already with the new build starting up, Consume Vitality taken as the level 1 talent. Now, a big deal of it is not only that you gain health back, but it's also the cooldown reduction that is heavily important here, especially when we're talking later on about fights on the Shrine where you can get extra value towards not only damage output, but also then the damage towards the minions. And the biggest thing about Leoric really is this 13 and 16 power spike that we already mentioned a bit earlier during the draft, especially with the level 13, 50% damage reduction on opponents that you just goes through is pretty insane, to an extent where a lot of teams are currently questioning if it's maybe even a bit too OP. So we will see that struggle between teams quite a lot. Do we value Leoric? If so, how highly do we prioritize him? And what kind of impact does he have on the game? How do we play around him?
We'll keep an eye on him for the entire weekend, get an idea of how strong the new Leo is. A Thorough in the top has already taken pressure. Speaking of Leo, Howling Blast comes out but does not connect, so Make will back up. But with a Shrine activating in the middle, both teams are working on grabbing 4 as quickly as possible, and then they'll make their plays for turrets. Look at Team Expert on the bottom side, already moving in.
Yeah, Expert is already pushing. They're very unlikely that they're going to head for that Shrine. I also want to highlight quickly that we have Team Expert with Vala heading into an arrow build, which on this map is not really the standard. Arrow build has become more or less the normal build on most other big maps where team fights are priority. But normally when we are talking about this map in particular, Infernal Shrines, you still head into a multi-shot build since you get the added value over the Shrine fights itself. And Expert is actually going for the Shrine.
Yeah, we didn't see Trick move into it right away. In fact, they came in to fight Team Expert in the middle as they were looking for maybe the Abathur pickup. And this put them in a spot where Team Expert came in, got a couple of Hungering Arrows on top of Crosby, the Grey Main, and that allowed for them to back away. And so Team Expert started the Shrine to pull them back into this area.
Yeah, already an attempt for Aethero, and he goes down. Leoric dead. He took on level 4 Neil Peasants. The standard talent, by the way, so increasing the skeleton swing damage against minions and mercenaries. Very helpful for the map as well. But you can already tell that we have Trick just pulling ahead quite heavily when it comes to the minion count against Team Expert. So Trick doing fairly well, but now with Leoric back, it seems as if Team Expert is able to claim the first Punisher after all.
Yeah, I am kind of curious here with that Leoric level 4 pickup. Is that as strong as the Royal Focus build into Lingering Apparition we saw in the past? Being able to clear out those minions seems great. You can double soak, but him using it on the Shrine here too means that it could actually double up. You can clear out minion waves, work on 2 things, and also work on the Shrine. Team Expert actually walks away here with the Punisher.
I mean, Neil Peasants is just the standard right now. I don't think I've ever really seen a different talent in all of the scrims and from also the personal streams that the pros currently have, at least on the European side. It's like the talent to take. With Royal Focus now being available and changed on level 16, I mean, I think the idea behind it is definitely similar. You're trying to get wave clear.
Yeah.
And that really helps you on the lanes. But it's also more or less a must-have talent if you want to be the solo laner for your team. And, well, Leoric is also a very heavy focus for Trick, as we can see here. It's the 2nd kill against the Skeleton King. So that makes it 2-0 in the kill count in favor of Trick Esports. But in experience, it's still very similar since we had that early Punisher for Team Expert.
This is a strategy that Twitch Esports pulls off as much as they can. They find that solo laner and they try to put as much damage and kills on him as possible up to level 10. And they've done pretty well here, but the thing is, Team Expert answers back great. They push on the bottom side with Vala and ETC, and they also grab the Goatman to push on the bottom, and they're going to get a fort.
Yeah, they're doing heavy damage here. The pressure and the rotations that they have is insanely strong. Also, we have now Drain Momentum, and I pointed that talent on level 7 for Leoric out in the draft. Basically, your Drain Hope, it does not... First of all, it is already a movement speed increase when Drain Hope is active. It doesn't slow Leoric down anymore. But the more important part is that once that you complete your Drain Hope, you also have a movement speed increase. And that is pretty crazy. 7 is a talent where I've seen some adjustments, but this is the current standard that most players go for. And of course, when we talk about standard, we're talking about something that the pros have only used for a week. But still, with them, basically all of them, at least in Europe, agreeing on their talent choices, we can already tell that this is going to be one of those staple builds for Leoric in the future.
I like that talent at face value simply for when you do get into team fights with Leoric, there are moments when you get into a spot where you're kind of lingering behind, you drop a Drain Hope, trying to get on top of a tank, but if you finish that Drain Hope and you get that movement speed, you get away from fights more often, and you may not have to sacrifice your life and go for that Leoric trait value anymore.
Yeah, just overall, Leoric has become, as I said before, a big nuisance. He's fast, he heals himself, he's difficult to kill, and then he has the damage reduction after level 13. He's pretty strong. But over here, Bad Benny goes down. ETC hammered into the ground. So Team Expert is doing well when we're talking about the map, about objectives, about taking structures down. But they're suffering a bit during these team fights. 3 kills against them already.
Yeah, Team Expert just looking good overall, though. They are about to hit level 10 with the fort down on the bottom side. Trick Esport went for that engage, trying to get the fight before level 10. Very standard play there. A little bit of an overextension from Team Expert trying to force that fight in the top left, and Trick being able to kill is going to feel pretty good about it. But look at the Punisher down here on the bottom side. 26-1, already in leads on the Shrine.
Yeah, we had a bit of a slow rotation from Trickton. They're now trying to take the control of the Shrine, but they're heavily behind in the minion count, 26-12 right now. And Expert is looking for that opening. The level 10 are here for Tricked, and they are already just popping for their opponent, and it is March of the Black King as expected. Here's the copy, the double Rhaegar play, as Marke moves in, gets the Divine Shield, takes ADRD out of the copy. Cocoon is on the ground. Here comes the March of the Black King, healing Leoric up again, and he immediately Wraith walks into the middle, slowing everyone, healing himself up, and just trying to chase them down. The mosh pit follows, and that is the end of an Uberak.
Bad Benny following up there. Nape low 2, going for the side here, looking at Nick. They're not going to kill him yet, as they want to make sure they can kill off Alex Aproji. They turn around and finish off the Punisher. Finally looking towards Arthas. The auto attacks come out, and that's going to be a dead Uther, a dead Arthas, and Team Expert are going to be able to walk away with kills, but they lose out on the Punisher.
Yeah, Trick was willing to sacrifice 1 to 2 more heroes just to get the Punisher, since they knew, first of all, it was an arcane Punisher. Second of all, they already lost 1 hero, so if they lose the Punisher as well, Expert would have way more push power. So Trick can't push with the Punisher, but by the time the Punisher is dead, the heroes are back on the field. So sacrificing 1 hero for the Punisher was definitely worth it. 2, maybe a bit of a stretch, but in the end, it still kind of works out for them.
I really enjoyed how that team fight also unfolded. Trick Esport came in and looked like they had the momentum in the fight with the Dragon Blade moving in, looking for a pickup. But the way that Leoric controlled the cocoon, once it came down to the duration finishing up on the webbing, he dropped March of the Black King to make sure the target in the middle of it could not be focused down, forced Trick Esports to escape, which allowed Nick on that Hungering Arrow to chase and proc.
Yeah, now the problem is really that with that talent, it's insanely difficult to kill Leoric at this point. It's not impossible or anything, but the problem is you have to sacrifice quite a lot if you want to take him down. And with a good ult, he usually has the ability to heal himself up again. Attempt to go straight for Marke, but that kill did not work, or the kill attempt did not work out for them. Ethereal, still being annoying, gets the speed increase through his level 7 talent that we talked about earlier. And keep in mind that Leoric's real power spike is kicking in with level 13. Always, of course, assuming that Ethereal goes for that damage reduction build, which will make it very difficult for, let's say, Greymane in particular, to get his damage into the team fights out.
I am getting a bit worried, though, for Trick Esport, especially with them losing that port on the bottom side. I feel like they need to win a Shrine soon, or get a kill or two on their opponent before moving into a Shrine. If not, Avatar's going to keep opening the map. Leoric is doing the same as well. And every time they go into a fight, I actually feel like Team Expert has been doing much better in their fights. See, Leoric engages into slows, have opened up power slides, and allowed for Team Expert to allow Nick to shine.
After level 10, Expert has definitely picked up a lot of momentum, thanks to them having a copy available. And now the Shrine is also activating. We should see Trick with level 13 by the time, or shortly after, so that should work out for them. But the level 13s for Expert, again, are going to make a big difference here. Not only because of Leoric, but also because of the rest. And as you can see right now, we have that 13 that I was mentioning earlier, the Omnious Wrath. So not only is the Wraith Walk duration increased by 100%, which in itself is already great, but at the same time, the 50% damage reduction for 4 seconds is crazy.
So Leoric will be looking to be a spooky ghost, trying to move through multiple members of Trick Esport. We'll watch and see how that unfolds.
It's actually crazy when you see it in fights. Just wait until you have the cooldown reduction on level 16. He literally just ghosts around the opponent's team the entire time, pops out of it, swings around, drops a March of the Black King when he's about to die, and just starts the entire party again. And that is very, like, it's actually a very spooky ghost at this point.
It's like a horror movie.
Yeah, there we see it already. So he already goes in, he has the damage reduction here. In this case, the fight didn't start afterwards, so it doesn't really have an effect, but we're going to see that throughout the game now.
Wraithwalk going to be available after this. March of the Black King comes out, Ancestral to hit a thorough. Strafe being utilized. Alex Proji is low, so with Rimmer. Bad Benny actually misses out on the mosh pit, but he does zone out Crosby. Crosby comes forward for the auto attack. The clone getting lower and lower, and this fight continues, Caldor.
The fight continues, but Knappe is down, and the problem for Tricked was after Leoric started his engage, there was very little damage output that Tricked had because of that 50% reduction. So Team Expert is still fully alive. They are 5 versus 4 now, and they are just starting to take down Tricked Esports one after another. At least they're trying to. Crosby gets out of here, but Arthas has to sacrifice himself. And that's 2 kills for nothing in favor of of Team Expert.
Expert did get low on health there, but so did Trick Esport, but it just looked like the damage was not available. That Wraith Walk coming online. I think I'm sold based off of 2 team fights already.
I mean, think about what happens. It's you have a copy on Rhaegar, so you have 2 healers in this position, and it's 2 healers that have AoE. At the same time, you have one guy that first of all has an insane amount of self-heal and sustain, but he also reduces the damage of the opponent's team by 50%. And of course that's only the ones that he touches while in Wraith Walk, but at the same time, as long as you just hit, let's say, Arthas and Greymane, that's already absolutely worth it. So for 4 seconds, these heroes are going to have a very low impact, and that gives the double Rhaegar, thanks to the copy from Abathur, time to heal everyone up again. The opponent takes damage, can't mitigate for the damage they took, and are losing the fight in the long run.
Trick Esport is trying to make something happen here before 16 hits. Expert does take Sting, they turn around, and they kill an Arthas easily there. I can see why Trick moved in for that fight. They knew that their keep was going to be saved. They were trying to get the flank in, almost had it, and they even had Divine Shield there with Genji. Sadly, Dragon Blade not being up, but it does not pan out for them as Team Expert easily cleans up Alex Proji.
Now we have level 16, and of course we're focused here a bit on Leoric since he has seen massive changes. But Royal Focus now is a level 16 talent, and at this point, what you can already tell is the skeleton swing damage increase is pretty important. That's definitely something to point out here for sure. But the more important part is that you reduce the cooldown of the Wraith Walk by 7 seconds for every single hero that you hit with a skeleton swing. Now Wraith Walk has a 14-second cooldown, meaning if you hit 2 heroes, you have no cooldown. So you can just keep on reducing. Look what he does again. He just moves through everybody, reduces the damage by doing so, and moves back in. And if at any point during these fights he just hits one skeleton swing, it's reset, he can start to do that again. So this is where Leoric becomes extremely scary for team fights. And as the opponent, you have to think about, okay, how do I position myself in a matter that the Ghost can't hit our damage dealer? So if the damage dealers are clumped, you're screwed.
Caldor, I'm banning Leoric. The moment I get home.
You should.
Banning Garrosh and then Leoric. Those are my bans.
I was very, very shocked when I watched a lot of the high-level Hero League plays that Leoric did not see a lot of bans. Like, people don't at this point, people don't really respect him too much. I think that's going to change very quickly once that we have the HGC week over with.
On Monday, 100% participation from Leoric will be hitting here in Hero League. Okay, so Tricked Esport now are trying to get in the game. Now, with them losing out in the last couple of fights, they're still in this game. They haven't lost their keep yet. They do have one that's low in the top left corner. They need to get 16, and a Shrine will be activating in 30 seconds. So they have a chance here. If they can catch a Vala off guard, to start fight betting back.
Not only that, keep in mind they have tools available too. We've been focusing a lot on Leoric as he's the new guy, but the thing about an Uberak, you can just cocoon Leoric. So that might be one way how to approach it. You don't go for the cocoon on your traditional target, but instead you can sacrifice cocoon to just simply cocoon Leoric, and then you go on to the rest of the team. That's one approach how you could run this. Aethero, by the way, is having a bit of a dancing standoff for that.
Very happy with his build that he is showing off right here. Clapping. 16 does connect. The thing with the new Cocoon, though, is it could be dodged out by Leoric, which would be scary. Then suddenly you lose your burst potential. Gosh, that is a hard trade-off. He is still just sitting there clapping.
If you're happy, go and clap. Okay. All right, so we're going to see. Yeah, here he comes again.
Damage.
Spooky. Woo. Yeah.
Goes in,
damage reduction.
Damage.
Immediately, just like annoying everyone already. And this is a great choke point to use March. So if he baits everyone in, he can just turn around and march, and that's what they know too. At this point, AD already loses the copy, but already Expert is so far ahead. Here comes Leoric again. Damage reduction already coming in on Mark and everybody else, and I think it's time to march, and there it is. Heals himself up immediately once again. Starts with a Wraith Walk, makes sure that he reduces the damage, goes in for the swing, and that's in dead. Genji already slows everybody down too. The utility on this guy at this point is insane.
When did Aethero become the range carry for Team Expert? When did that become a thing?
The thing is, like, it's not necessarily the damage output that really frightens you when you think about Leoric. At this point, he's currently sitting still at very respectable 31,000. That's quite a lot if you consider that Mako and Genji and Crosby on Greymane have the same amount of damage. But it's really more so the utility that you are afraid of.
Team Expert getting 3 kills, look towards the middle lane, open up the keep, and Bad Benny is even moving towards the core. Will all of Team Expert move in and try to win the game here? In 10 seconds, Arctis will be up, and so will Uther. With Genji joining in on the fray, this is looking like it might be a push for the win.
Yeah, they are going for the core at this point, especially with Aethero, of course, again being able to reduce the damage output by 50%. It's very difficult to kill these guys when you only do half the damage, and that's something that Aethero is going to make sure of. Already he has hit both of the damage dealers, so they will have no chance of making that happen. Genji is already dead, the core is about to fall, and this is Team Expert taking the first victory against Tricked Esports in the best-of-5 series.
Team Expert gets a win, and I get a new build for Leoric. Good day here at HGC already. Wow, that was pretty impressive to see pulled off. It seems like it's really good on Infernal Shrines, but does it have that same effect on different battlegrounds? That's
actually the biggest question. I think every single map where you can, with globals, out-rotate an opponent and you focus more on macro game than you do on team fights, the Leoric is going to fall in priority. But overall, in those maps, on those maps where you have focus on a single objective, where you need to go into the team fights, Leoric is going to have a huge impact, and I think he's going to rise in priority quite a lot.
I'm actually legit writing this down. I'm not joking around. Okay, so there we go. We have it down on paper. We're good to go.
I would also, I mean, I'm going far out here. I would not be shocked to see within 2-3 weeks a slight adjustment.
Slight adjustment
to the level
build
13
overall.
talent.
Yeah, it seemed like Trick Esport in a couple of fights started to get to the point where they tried to control the Leoric, and that's when we would see the strafe come out. The moment you put any focus on that Leoric and you get set up to where he finishes up March of the Black King and you want to focus him down, you would see Nick move forward, drop a Hungering Arrow or two, and then drop down a strafe, and it just seemed very difficult for them to actually control that type of fight.
It's also, let's not forget the draft overall was also very, very good. They had a lot of control over the shrines, and also the double Rhaegar really helped them to keep everybody alive. So there was a lot of sustain behind it even. You have the damage reduction against your opponent after 13, you have 2 Rhaegars that can heal for the duration of the Abathar copy, and you have the damage dealer. And then also you have to always think about ETC. He's always in there, he runs Mosh Pit, so whenever you try to tunnel vision in on Leoric or Vala or anyone else, ETC just sits there, says like, it's time to party, goes in for the Mosh Pit, and that's all she wrote. So at that point, well executed by Team Expert. Tricked will have to adjust a bit, and we're going to find out on the second map if they can do that on the fly now.
But first, we're going to go ahead and look at our supports here for both of our teams. We saw the Rhaegar that was mentioned there by Kaldor, played by Curson, who is here on the right. Nape played the Uther that was on the left side here. Looking at the comparisons, they don't look too crazy overall. More takedowns for Nape. He seems to be more of an aggressive player compared to Curson. But Curson, again, just like Nick, has been quietly one of the best in his role in Europe.
I mean, you can see with the KDA ratio already that Curson is more efficient and Nape a bit more aggressive in how he plays here. The takedowns definitely highly increased on his part, but both of them definitely pretty good. And with Nape, it's this thing that we've been mentioning. I talked with Remabola about it too, and Nape is just like, he's a support that sometimes, rarely, I need to point out, can just simply lose you a game because he makes the wrong decision, he waits a bit too long and he doesn't throw out his ult and it costs you the fight and then the game. But normally he just plays on an absolutely insane level. So it's that inconsistency a little bit that's just not only symptomatic for the team, but for the individual players as well, where sometimes they play out of their mind and they look like the best team in the world. And then on another day, there's an uncharacteristic mistake that on those days he would make, and you're just like, what just happened? So that's something, if they can get that under control somehow, I think they are going to just continue to improve.
Yeah, that's some trouble that we all try to deal with, trying to be consistent on our heroes, consistently being there. I remember Nape in the first season of the HGC showing us Ario for the first time alongside Sefka, and the way he played Ario was incredible, to say the least. He would go for flanks with detainment strikes, and I'm watching an Ario literally go around the map and go for a flank on a tank, and that scares me. And he made it work. He loves to be aggressive, and it's fun to watch him play these heroes. Now, of course, there are moments where he's missing out on these heroics, but as he continues to get better and better, man, he is still one of the great reasons why Trick Esports is doing so well. Now, let's go ahead and move into our second game of the day here. Battleground will be Tomb of the Spider Queen. Team Expert will have the pick as Trick Esport elects to get first pick.
And that is another map where we have to talk about Leoric, of course. So we could now see maybe a ban or maybe a higher priority on the side of Tricked, maybe Expert again, but definitely here to watch out for here. And overall, Tomb, of course, it's a lot about the turn-ins. You try to